Okay, my battery has a little more charge. My battery has a little more charge. I think we'll be able to get through the rest of the chapter. Here we go. This is part 2 of chapter 6. Rose, ma'am. Okay. Rose. Okay. Okay, so I turned my attention back to the front. We were making good time, pulling ahead of Aries, but Annabeth's chariot was way ahead of us. She was already making her turn around the first post, her javelin man grinning and waving at us, shouting, "See ya!" The Hephaestus chariot was starting to gain on us too. Beckendorf pressed a button and a panel slid open on the side of his chariot. "Sorry, Percy," he yelled. 3 sets of balls and chains shot straight toward our wheels. They would have wrecked us completely if Tyson hadn't whacked them aside with a quick swipe of his pole. He gave the Hephaestus chariot a good shove and then sent them skittering sideways while he pulled ahead. "Nice work, Tyson," I yelled. "Birds!" he cried. "What?" We were whipping along so fast it was hard to hear or see anything, but Tyson pointed toward the woods, and I saw what he was worried about. The pigeons had risen from the trees. They were spiraling like a huge tornado, heading toward the track. "No big deal," I told myself. "They're just pigeons." Side note, they're never just pigeons. Pigeons, they can have attitude problems. They can be a little aggressive and territorial. Anyway, I tried to concentrate on the race. We made our first turn, the wheels creaking under us. The chariot threatening to tip, and we were now only 10 feet behind Annabeth. If I could just get a little closer, Tyson could use his pole. Annabeth's fighter wasn't smiling now. He pulled a javelin from his collection and took aim at me. He was about to throw when we heard the screaming. The pigeons were swarming. Oh, that would be my nightmare. The thousands of them dive-bombing the spectators in the stands, attacking the other chariots. Beckendorf was mobbed. His fighter tried to bat the birds away, but he couldn't see anything. The chariot veered off course, plowed through the strawberry fields, and leaving the mechanical horses steaming. In the Aries chariot, Clarice barked an order to her fighter, who quickly threw a screen of camouflage netting over their basket. The birds swarmed around it, pecking and clawing at the fighter's hands as he tried to hold up the net, but Clarice just gritted her teeth and kept driving. Her skeletal horses seemed immune to the distraction. The pigeons pecked uselessly at their empty eye sockets and flew through their rib cages, but the stallions kept right on running. The spectators weren't so lucky. The birds were slashing at any bit of exposed flesh, driving someone into a panic. Now that the birds were closer, it was clear they weren't normal pigeons. Their eyes were beady and evil looking. Their beaks were made of bronze, and judging from the yelps of the campers, they must have been razor sharp. "Stymphalian birds!" Annabeth yelled. She slowed down and pulled her chariot alongside mine. "They'll strip everyone to the bones if we don't drive them away." "Tyson," I said, "we're turning around." "Going the wrong way?" he asked. "Ugh, always," I grumbled, but I steered the chariot toward the stands. Annabeth rode right next to me. She shouted, "Heroes to arms!" But I wasn't sure anyone could actually hear her over the screeching of the birds and the general chaos. I held my reins in one hand and managed to draw Riptide as a wave of birds dived at my face, their metal beaks snapping. I slashed them out of the air and they exploded into dust and feathers, but there were still millions of them left. One nailed me in the back end and I almost jumped straight out of the chariot. Annabeth wasn't having much better luck. The closer we got to the stands, the thicker the clouds of birds became. Some of the spectators were trying to fight back. The Athena campers were calling for shields. The archers from Apollo's cabin brought out their bows and arrows, ready to slay the menace. Oh, no power again. Guess I didn't charge it for long enough. We're going to keep going. But with so many campers mixed in with the birds, it just wasn't safe to shoot. "Too many," I yelled to Annabeth. "How do you get rid of them?" She stabbed at a pigeon with her knife. "Ugh, Hercules used noise. Brass bells. He scared them away with the most horrible sound he could." Her eyes got wide. "Percy, where's Chiron's music collection?" Rude. Poor Chiron. I understood instantly. "You think it'll work?" She handed her fighter the reins and leaped from her chariot into mine like it was the easiest thing in the world. "To the big house. It's our only chance." Clarice had just pulled across the finish line, completely unopposed, and seemed to notice for the first time how serious the bird problem actually was. When she saw us driving away, she yelled, "You're running! The fight is here, cowards!" She drew her sword and charged the stands. I urged our horses into a gallop. The chariot rumbled through the strawberry fields, across the volleyball pit, and lurched to a halt in front of the big house. Annabeth and I ran inside, tearing down the hallway to Chiron's apartment. His boombox was still on the nightstand. All right, friends, so a boombox was a music playing device. You could put CDs in it. You could put cassette tapes in it. I will upload a visual image reference of what a CD and what a cassette tape is in case any of you are wondering. But they played music. So right now they're going to get Chiron's music collection. So I grabbed the most repulsive CD I could find. Annabeth snatched the boombox and together we ran back outside. Down at the track, the chariots were in flames. Wounded campers ran in every direction, with birds shredding their clothes and pulling out their hair, while Tantalus chased breakfast pastries around the stands every once in a while, yelling, "Everything's under control! Not to worry, everything's fine!" Mood. Because it will be. We pulled up to the finish line. Annabeth got the boombox ready, and I prayed the batteries weren't dead. I pressed play and started up Chiron's favorite that was surely to drive all the pigeons crazy with its repulsive noise. The all-time greatest hits of Dean Martin. Suddenly the air was filled with violins and a bunch of guys moaning Italian. Okay, you guys, Dean Martin has a beautifully velvet voice. Beautiful singer. Rude. Suddenly the air was filled with violins and a bunch of guys moaning in Italian. The demon pigeons went nuts. They started flying in circles, running into each other like they wanted to bash their own brains out. Then they abandoned the track altogether and flew skyward in a huge dark wave. "Now!" shouted Annabeth. "Archers!" Well, with clear targets, Apollo's archers had flawless aim. Most of them could knock 5 or 6 arrows at once. Within minutes, the ground was littered with dead bronze-beaked pigeons, and the survivors were a distant trail of smoke on the horizon. The camp was saved, but the wreckage wasn't pretty. Most of the chariots had been completely destroyed. Almost everyone was wounded, bleeding from multiple burn pecks, and, well, the kids from Aphrodite's cabins were screaming because their hairdos had been ruined and their clothes were pooped on. "Bravo," Tantalus said, but he wasn't looking at me or Annabeth. "We have our first winner." He walked to the finish line and awarded the golden laurels for the race to a very stunned-looking Clarice. Then he turned and smiled at me. "And now to punish the troublemakers who disrupted the race." Gosh, Percy and Annabeth can't really catch a break, can they? So I will be back later with a chapter 7 reading just for fun. Remember, these aren't required. I just knew that we were planning on reading this together in class. So this is just for if you want to follow along. I hope you guys are having an amazing Tuesday. Had to think about that for a second. Bye, everybody.